We're going to talk hook baits now with part carp, part man, Simon Scott. So my first question is, do you ever use a hook bait straight out of the bag, just a standard bottom bait?
Absolutely, Dan, and yeah, definitely. I'm real confident with a bait straight out of the bag.
What sort of situation would you use it in?
If I was fishing over clean gravel, I want to bait hard on the bottom.
Right.
But you know, in silty lakes, a lot of the lakes I started my carp fishing on were very silty, and I'd use bait straight out of the bag and caught plenty of fish.
Right, okay. Now I noticed on here that you've been using quite a few tiger nuts as hook baits, and I noticed I've seen you in the edge, like dropping them in and seeing how slowly they sink. Now you're obviously doing something to them.
Yeah, that's right, Dan. As you say, I'm a massive fan of tigers, and I like my hook baits to sink steadily. I don't want them to be critically balanced. I don't want them fluttering about. If a fish comes in, I don't want it wafting the bait off the bottom, but I want to be able to take the weight of the hook out and make it very easy for the fish to suck it up off the bed of the lake.
So how is the hook sitting then? Is it flat on the bottom? Is it sitting up? Sort of
somewhere between the two.
Right.
If I can be perfect, you know, sometimes I will fish them sat upright, but it's normally just kicked over.
Right, okay. So you've basically taken the weight of the hook away,
Yeah.
but it's not so buoyant that it's going all over the place when the fish approach the swim.
Yeah, spot on.
to
It's
actually
definitely
feed.
not critically balanced.
Right, okay. So when would you do that as opposed to just using one straight out of the bag, just a standard bottom bait?
It's fishing situations. If I'm seeing fish come in and feeding and not getting a pick up on one that's been balanced, I might try a straight bottom bait. A lot of my fishing stalking, as you know, so you know I often see what's going on.
Right, okay. So if you can't see what's going on and you approach it, obviously over here, you know, you've not got the luxury of being able to watch the fish right under your feet. How long do you give it with one before you swap to another one?
My tactic there would be to chop and change and to start with different setups on different rods.
Right.
And if one rod starts doing the bites, then fine tune the others.
Right, okay. So a standard bottom bait on one, slow sinking bottom bait on the other.
And a pop up on the third rod.
Right, okay.
You know, chop and change.
Right. So with boilies, if you want to critically balance a boilie, how do you do that?
Unfortunately, the range I use, there is a fish meal in that range that is done with a cork dust mixed through it, so you can buy critically
Right,
balanced
so
hook baits
little
in pots.
tiny bits of cork that actually rolled into the paste, so it's got like a rough sort of texture,
Spot
isn't
on.
it?
Yeah, and they just slowly sink, and
Right.
then you add the hook, and you've got slow sinking hook bait.
Right, okay. Now I've been doing that with my own paste and putting the cork dust into it, and it's actually you can keep moulding it in, dropping the whole lump in a thing of water, and you can see how easily it floats to the surface, and you want it so it's just coming up to the surface, and then you know it's going to be.
Yeah, by the time you've added the hook to that, you've got a nice steady sink on it, but it's not, the weight of the hook's taken out of the equation, isn't it?
Right, okay. So in percentage terms, what percentage of fish do you think you've caught on slow sinking bottom baits as opposed to standard bottom baits?
Oh, God, that's a tricky question.
Yeah,
half and half, I suppose.
Half and half?
Through my carp fishing, yeah. I'd
Right,
say.
okay. And I take it you try both on the same venue and then just see which one works?
Yeah, and the one thing, a good point at this stage to say, Dan, is that the fish's mood will change day to day. So what might work well one day might not work the next. So don't be afraid to change. If you've caught fish on pop-ups, then don't be afraid to try a bottom bait to see.
Right, okay. And what about the old faithful snowman? A lot of fish get caught on snowman. Is that something you use?
Oh yeah, loads and loads. I'm a great fan of that. So standard bottom bait and then a cut down pop up on the top, and I'll trim it down again to get that slow sink effect.
Right, okay. So when I do mine, I cut a little bit off of each bait so they sort of join together a little bit nicer. Is that something you do as well?
Yeah, do that. Yeah, sort of sandwich the two halves together, trim them down.
Right, and what about colour? Does colour of hook bait make a difference, do you think?
Definitely, yeah. And I think there's situations where you want your bottom baits to blend in, hook baits to blend in with the bottom baits.
So what is that situation? So people.
Well, again, the mood of the fish on the day.
Right.
In the springtime, the fish are coming out of the cold water. Their eyesight deteriorates in cold water, so giving them a little bit of a target, a little bit of yellow on top of the boilie, it can be a great edge.
Right.
The flip side is at this time of the year, the fish have been pressured all summer long. They see a bit of yellow on top of oil, it's like, no way.
Right,
I'm not having that.
Right, now that's really interesting, that, because I've found that on the places I've fished, the bright ones have worked really well in the spring, but come the summer, it's not as easy to get a bite on a bright one, and you want a food bait, if you like, something similar to what you're feeding, and you get a lot more bites on that.
Yeah, definitely.